Computer audio, I guess. Cool. All right, we'll see if anyone joins. Because currently I do not know who will, but that's fine. Oh, that's okay. I am recording it. Cool. So, because we want to try and get it recorded so everyone can see it later if they want to. So I'm just going to share my screen and then do it that way. Welcome, lol. That's presenting. All right, cool. So let's get started, I guess. So welcome everyone for coming. Thank you very much. It's good to see you all here. So this is the introduction training workshop, just to get you an overview of like some of the stuff of like what we are, what we like to do, how we like to do it, and important information that you want to know when you are interested in becoming an actual volunteer for us. So to start with, we'll talk a little bit about Robogals. So Robogals is not your normal student society from a university. We are tied to a university, but we are actually split across two. So we both have UQ and we have QUT members. What that means is we are not really tied to a specific university. We're actually just a global organization. So there are Robogals chapters in many places in the world, including, you know, Europe and America and all kinds of, all the continents pretty much. We are part of the Asia Pacific region, which means, you know, basically because we are in Australia, and there's quite a few chapters in Australia. We've got a Melbourne chapter and a, you know, Monash chapter and chapter in Perth and New Zealand and all kinds of places. So that's pretty cool. What this means is we have a pretty large network in terms of like how we get workshops and how we sort of get resources to us. It's a pretty cool community that spans across the whole world. And we all, but generally that's where we get our direction from, and then sort of like the general idea of the club is still the same across these areas. So the main thing that we're trying to help and the main premise of the issue that we're trying to solve in some small way is that in Australia, I looked this up, only 15% of engineers are women, which is the bad part. I believe engineering is the worst ratio in like the entire job market. Don't quote me on that. That might be wrong, but I believe it actually is. I think it's one of the specific engineering disciplines. I think electrical engineering is something like 9% or 8% or something, which I think is the worst ratio in all of the job market, which is great. It's not great, which is why we sort of try to help out and see what we can do to have a little bit of impact in whatever ways we can. So that brings us to our mission and what we try to do. So we try to, exactly what it says, we try to inspire and engage younger women, younger girls, and we target them during sort of their educational phase, because this is the time in their life that they are starting to make decisions. This is the time in their life that they start to pick a direction for their goals. And unfortunately, it is still very common perception in our modern world where girls may not think that they're able to do something like this, or they may not think that this is something for them, even though they just never actually had a cool experience dealing with STEM stuff, and they've never actually been introduced to it properly. So that's what we try to do. We're not trying to get girls into engineering that don't want to be. We're trying to give the opportunity for girls to have a cool experience. We're trying to give them an opportunity to have a sort of a cool interaction with it. And then if that's something that they discover they do actually like, they might pursue that further in other ways. So we're trying to look for that spark is what we're trying to do. So yeah. So the first thing I want to get out of the way is like the housekeeping of how do I actually become a blue card? Of how do I become a blue card? Become a volunteer. So it's required that every volunteer has a blue card. This is simply because, you know, children need to be protected and it's a good system. but it does mean that there's a little bit to do. So I've got some links in here. This is a recording, so you can find this later. I will post this, but it's over here right now, and there's a QR code if you want to scan that. Email us with your date of birth and blue card services number, because when you apply, you'll get a number like that, and it should be fine. Volunteer blue cards are completely free. So if you get paid to work with children, then you have to pay for a blue card. If you do not get paid to work with children, you do not have to pay for a blue card. It's the fairest way that they figured they could do that. So cool. That's the main thing. They've got a really great portal. It's all set up to use. It's pretty good. It used to be like terrible. We used to have to fill out like a paper form and send it to them via mail, and that was awful. But they've actually modernized it with in the past few years, so that's made it very great for us, and we should be able to help you out. If you have any struggles with it, please reach out. We do have our email or our Facebook just about everywhere. So cool. So workshops and event updates. So we run lots of things pretty frequently. All workshops and events are advertised primarily on our Facebook group, primarily the Robogals Brisbane volunteers one. This is a private group for various reasons. I believe it's just easier to manage who's on there, and we want to keep it clean and we want to keep it good and informational. So there's two QR codes there that you can scan, or you can just literally search us on Facebook and you'll find it. You'll have to request the Robogals Brisbane volunteers, but we pretty swiftly let you in if you just explain you're just a student and you're interested in volunteering. So yeah, and if you keep an eye on that, you should hear about all of the events and activities that we're up to. So that's the main way to keep up to speed with what we're doing. So workshop spreadsheet. So the way that we do volunteering sign-ons is when you are available for volunteering, you write your name in the spreadsheet. So there's a link to it here again. It is found on the Facebook group, or if you're ever wondering where to find it again, you can find it in this recording. So that's here as well. If you're willing to carpool, that's always great. We always look for people with a car. Not everyone has one. And you will be reimbursed for that. So we don't expect you to pay out of your pocket to do that kind of stuff. We do have systems in place for that. It's not an expense on your part to partake in that. So yeah, so the meeting. So we want to meet with you, like volunteers will be contacted through Messenger. So we generally just get your contact details from that sheet, and then we make like literally a Messenger chat with all the people involved. And that's when we work out like, all right, who's driving, who's picking up the robots, who's meeting where. We usually meet at our cupboard room. So again, because we are a UQ and QUT split club, we used to be solely based at UQ. So we still have our storage and cupboard room there. So for QT people, that might be a little bit annoying, but it's not too bad to catch a bus to UQ from QUT. It's actually not the worst. But so we generally like to meet at the UQ General Purpose South Room 204D. Or at the location. So if you're not, if you know, and this is what you work out in that Messenger chat, is who actually needs to go there and who's fine to just go to the actual location, and what's easiest. You know, we always need a few people to help carry things and get things sorted. So yeah, and obviously if neither of those things will work out for you, then we can arrange things as we need to. Cool. So just general guidelines, just a general idea. It's pretty normal stuff, in my opinion. It's just closed-in shoes. We might sometimes be in like a lab or in some sort of like an official capacity. We want to sort of keep our self-standards. So, you know, knee-length short skirts would be good. And then Robogals shirt. So if you have one, bring it. If you do not, it's nice to sort of keep a little bit of a dark, you know, dark blue theme across. I'm wearing this shirt right now, so sort of something like that is great. But you know, do what you can. Of course, it's not too bad if it's not amazing. But yeah, so be supportive and patient. I think that's the biggest one. It can be some people might struggle sometimes where they're like, but it's so simple, but you might be teaching like a grade 5 or 6 student, and it's just really important to be patient with them. It will take them longer to understand these concepts. When you teach a year 6 student robotics, you're already pushing their limits far beyond what they're expected to do in the actual curriculum, right? So we do have to be supportive and patient with them. Physical contact, avoid where possible. We are kind of in a very official capacity, and it doesn't have to stay professional, of course. We would like you to introduce yourself at the start of the workshop so that the students kind of have an idea of what you're like and who you are. And yeah, our goal is to provide a fun experience. So I think this is the biggest thing that I grabbed with when I was first starting is like, what are we actually doing? What is the goal? And the goal is to provide a fun experience. Our goal is not to really educate, like we do educate, and it's the medium through which we provide the experience, because we have to teach them how to use the robots. Otherwise, they won't have fun using the robots. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is, did they have a good time, and did they have a good experience? And was this a good sort of introduction, or was this a suitable way to present STEM fields to them? Is the most important thing. We do like that, we love it when they walk away with it with some level of knowledge. They might have learned something, they might have done something cool, and then that's generally what we like to do. So again, we have lots of links in this, I see, but you will be able to find all of those back again. Cool, so a general layout of like a workshop is, it just depends on the time and age group, of course, as well. Some schools might be like, we only have an hour, and some schools might be like, you get an hour and a half. And then suddenly that makes a big difference, because it just depends on how the workshop runs. It depends on how big the class is, how many students you've got, whether they're rowdy, whether they're very good. It just depends a lot. But what we try to do is something along the lines of this. So we do an introduction to Robogals. What are we? They might not know types of engineers and engineering processes. So we want to give them an introduction into what is engineering, because that's a question that is really, really poorly answered in not engineering fields, right? What is engineering? People will go, you build bridges, right? And then you go, not quite. That's one of them. But so we tried to sort of give an actual suitable overview of some of the main engineering types. Then we bring that back to women in engineering. It's pretty much the slide I showed you before, abysmal numbers of women in engineering, which is why we do what we do. So we give some context to what we're doing. We're very transparent about it. We're not trying to fool anyone. We're not trying to subtly try to influence them. We're very much upfront, and we go, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're trying to teach you, and this is the reason. So yeah, and then we introduce them to the actual workshop, so the actual task, and then we have some activity time. We try to give them as much activity time as we can, just because that's the fun part. It's less fun to hear me talk at them than it is for them to do stuff. And then we get the conclusion. So obviously we say, thank you for coming. Somewhere in the middle of activity time and introduction to task, we have some lunch break or whatever. But that very much depends on the workshop itself, of course. This is a very general overview. Cool. So we don't just go to schools. We do other things too. So we have SED that's actually coming up. So these are workshops provided by Robogals Global. So every Robogals Global would like every chapter to do a science and engineering day. These are opt-in. We don't have to do them, but we like to do them. And there are many different types of sort of more general workshops. These might be about like sustainability, or we might be doing a more mechanical one, like a catapult workshop, which those are two examples of what we will be doing this science and engineering day. Oh, I realized it doesn't say it's science and engineering day, so we call it SED. And specific training days are catered for this because they are different to the workshops that we do everywhere else, right? So we don't really do that with this. We're meant to run specific ones for that. And then we do GIRs. So our GIRs are Girls in Robotics days. So we tend to invite girls to our venues. So we usually run those at UQ. We tried to run the last one at QT, but it was hard to get the room because we're still a pretty new QT club. We used to be based at UQ. So these are basically really big workshops. So instead of going to a school and maybe giving a workshop for an hour and a half to 2 hours, these will last from like 8 to 4 or something silly. And we just like spend a large amount of time with them, and we provide food and we provide, refreshments and things like that. So we get to teach them and show them a lot more in that time. And we like to do them because this is the next step, right? If they've maybe had a Robogals workshop at their school and they're interested and they want to get more of what that was, these Girls in Robotics days are great for them to come in and have a much, more extended session with us if they want to. So that's more like they come to us instead of we going to them. I do want to give a shout out to our event coming up soon, next weekend from today, which is the 31st of March. We are doing a hackathon for mainly targeted at first and second years. It's an Arduino hackathon. Our theme is assistive devices, and we want to get some industry people in, and there's some prize money involved as well. So feel free to have a look into that. It's a cool event. It's going to be exciting. We're partnering with QT Robotics Club and UQ Mars. So it's a big 3 club sort of collaboration event. That's going to be cool. All right. So we've got sort of main workshop types, and I'm going to talk about 2 of them. So we do a 3D printing workshop. And you might go, well, that's wild. You're teaching grade 5 3D printing. Yes, we are. It's great. It's a very interesting problem. And this is exactly why we have workshop leads and why we train workshop leads to do things like that. But we basically just go over what is a 3D printer and are there multiple types of printers? What are the multiple types of printers? That's what it should say. But there's a few different types. You've got the resin ones, which they literally rise out your print out of a pool of resin. It's super cool, but very expensive, and most people don't use them. They're very cool. And then you've got the normal snake noodle, hot noodle boys, which just like line the shape you want, and they are the standard ones. So the reason that we are able to do this is because Tinkercad exists. Tinkercad's a really great platform, and it makes it very simple to do these things. You just like drag and drop in shapes, and then you mold them into the thing you want. And they get to try their hand to do some pretty basic prints, and they have a good time doing it. So, Tinkercad examples, we've got the orientation of the work plane. So it's the section of shapes you have to choose from. Basically, I'm happy to go in and have a look at it. So we might actually go to CAD and yeah. So the way it actually works, I might just do this. Well, I'm educated. Wait. Sign in, yes, that one. Brisbane. Yep. So we did run a, see, we've got a few prints that some other people have made. So you can make some pretty fun things. If you go into create new design, which is what they will essentially be seeing. Part of us is me wanting to show you around a little bit so that you're not completely disorientated when you get to the workshop. So the essential view is what they're going to see is this. So on the top left, this is a really useful one where you've got top, front, and things like that. So you can orientate your view like this, and you can click on like, I want to see the right side, or I want to see the front, or I want to see the top. Top's obviously nice for a lot of things, or you can grab it and drag it to any orientation that you want. Very useful for seeing where things are lining up. These are box or circular holes, I believe. And then these are all the different shapes. So you've got a lot of base shapes that are fun. Obviously, like cubes are useful. And the reason like, you know, this works so well is because you just drag in a template that already exists. It's already shaped, it's already made, it's already modeled. And then all you need to do from Tinkercad is you just drag it out to the sizes that you want. So I can make this bigger and I can make this corner bigger. And then I can grab this arrow and it can move up. So I can have like, okay, I want a square there. And then I want that square to be supported by a cylinder. And rather than having to go through like, you know, some more sophisticated sort of CAD programming, I can just go, oh, cool. And then make sure that's lined up with that. And then, oh, how far above the ground is this? 20 as well. And then you can just line it up. And now I've made a square supported by a cylinder, right? Obviously that's very basic, but like it's the way that you do this is literally tinkering with it. It's very much in the spirit of what Tinkercad's trying to do, which is cool. And then I believe these are holes. So I can go like that, and then I can drag you up to the same height. And then if I want to delete that piece or make that not exist anymore, just make a hole. And then suddenly I've got a different shape again. So you use squares and cylinders to like cut holes and pieces out of the thing that you've made. And that way you can make, you know, pretty much most shapes that you want. Is it Fusion or Inventor? No, it's not going to have the same amount of functionality as those programs have. But this is the best entry-level software that's out there, and it will do most of what you will want it to do. So it's a pretty cool kind of platform. You've got obviously measuring tools, which is great, or sort of like rules you can put down. But the long and short of it is that you have a play with it. That's the main way that you kind of work with this piece of software. There's not that many like sort of functionality, or there's not really that many strange features. I mean, there's this where you've got, you know, let's say your creations, or you've got some more sophisticated designs, but a lot of these, you know, are sort of pre-made. And then you can use things like this, where you can get a little, you know, character, or you can get some other, you know, and you can put cool glasses on it, whatever, right? There are more sophisticated shapes. It's more fun to, obviously, if you're designing your own thing, to make it out of your basic shapes. But if you want, you know, to give them some guidance, or you want to be like, you know, this exists as well and it might help you, you can put these more complicated shapes all over the place as well. And they're quite good. So it's given you a lot of sort of templates to work off of. So like, you know, let's say that I wanted to make a little man do something, then I could grab this template, and from here, now I have this, and I could, you know, go and put sunglasses on them, whatever. And that's sort of like a way. Again, it's very much based around giving them a fun experience. So letting them play around and helping them sort of mainly just controls. Like sometimes these students are quite young, and it's even just like using the computer can be difficult, or like, you know, just helping them support and work through making them what they want to make. These workshops tend to be pretty open-ended, unless the workshop leader has like a specific goal in mind of what they want to make. For maybe some of our smaller workshops that are to be a little bit more streamlined. These are great because they allow for so much creativity. They allow for them to go in and just have a play with it and make something cool out of it. We do often try our best to arrange someone to bring in like a 3D printer, or we 3D print their parts after the fact, and then they can often pick them up if it's something printable, right? Yeah, it's quite cool. So yeah, as a volunteer, as you're just starting out, you will be fine, because there will be a workshop leader that is not you, and your role is mostly to support the workshop leader into doing the thing that they're doing. So it's really not too much stress or pressure on you to know everything there is to know about something like this, because hopefully by the time that you're interested in maybe being like a workshop leader or running some of these sessions, you will have done some workshops. That is the ideal progression that we kind of shoot for. So don't be too stressed out if you don't know too much about this. because that's totally fine. Because we will always try to have someone in the room that has a lot more expertise and that kind of knows what they're doing. That's the goal, at least. So cool. Do we have questions about Tinkercad? No? Cool. Hopefully that's a decent explanation of what we're doing. So let's go back to this. Actually, bringing up the point of volunteer. So I just brought up the website. This is the Robogals Brisbane website. Our webmaster's been working very hard on it and it looks great. I love it. And this is kind of probably relevant information that I maybe wanted to show off in the reporting for anyone that is watching this and is interested, like, okay, I maybe want to be a volunteer, but like, what is my responsibilities or like, what stage am I up to? I like sort of showing this off because as a new volunteer, you're completely new to the club and, you know, you can take on as much as you want or like it doesn't matter. After this session, we consider you a trained volunteer, which is great because then we can, you know that you have some base level of knowledge or know that you have at least some level of orientation. It's okay for you to be a new volunteer and come to a workshop. You'll just have to let the workshop leader know so they can kind of crash course, kind of brief you before the actual session. But it's, we would obviously prefer people to be trained or watch this. So an active volunteer, 1 to 4 events done 10 hours. So this is sort of the guidelines that we have. And you get a shirt after you put in a little bit of effort for us, and then we give you something back. You get a shirt, you get to show off that you're an active volunteer and you're active in the club, and we love to see that. And that's all we really need from you. We very much appreciate you coming around. And then optionally, you can take it a little bit further. You know, you can go for some leadership training. You can absolutely come chat to me about it. I am the training manager. So I would probably be doing a lot of that. But any sort of current workshop leader can train a volunteer into a workshop leader. So that's fine. And then you're kind of training to lead a workshop. So you might come along to a few workshops and instead of simply just supporting, you might take a piece or you might take a few slides or you might, it very much depends on your level of comfort and their level of comfort. And it very much depends on what is right for you. So this is very much a process that is a bit more personal. I can't go into like great detail here just because it's very much, based on your skill level and whatnot. So, but there is, ideally, we like to sort of have a process for training you, getting you a bit more comfortable. And then, yeah, you're a workshop leader, so you can lead workshops. You'll be one of our most active volunteers. And that's really, really great because more workshop leaders means that it's easier for everyone to be able to run lots of workshops. And the more workshop leaders we have, the more workshops we can run. So it's really great support to us as our executive team to have people that are just workshop leaders and aren't just us. So that's really, really cool. And then executive. So obviously then it's the end of the line, really. You can come to, you can become an executive if you're not like a workshop leader, of course. There are other sections of the club that you can help out with. We have really great industry connections. Like we have some excellent partnerships managers. Marketing and stuff like that is really, really great. We probably ideally want someone with a level of experience in like training manager or something like that. But at the end of the day, we're happy to have you along and apply for roles as you feel like you're fit for them. We would love to have you along. So yeah, that's kind of, I wanted to show that off. And there's more information down here. So these are broken down into a little bit more words and into, but it's essentially just going to mirror pretty accurately to what I just spoke about. But yeah, I thought that would be cool to show off in the spirit of like, if you're sitting there, you're watching this and you're like stressed, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. Then, it's probably good to keep in mind that we don't expect you to do too much right from the start. So cool. Okay. Yep. All right. So our other workshop type, and this is the one that we run the most, is our micromelon workshop. So I've got the case behind me. So they come in a beautiful case, and I will probably grab one just to show it. Grab one or two. So, it's these little bad boys. So they're called micromelons, and I actually work at this company. They're pretty great. They're a very cool, compact, neat little package that very much is just, it's got all the sensors that you need on them. So if you look at the top of them, it actually lays out exactly what sensors are what. So you've got some ultrasonic sensor, and you've got a bunch of the different motor drivers, and it explains where everything is located. So at the front of the robot, you've got some eye-looking things. That's your ultrasonic sensor. And then on the sides, you've got infrared light distance sensors. So you can see distance on 3 of its sides. And it's got some color sensors down at the bottom, which has got 3 of them. And they can detect different shades of color, or they can detect ambient color, all kinds of things. They've got a gyro sensor on them. They've got a bunch of cool stuff. There's a lot of extensions you can do on these that aren't necessarily on the robot already. But yeah, so on the back of them is the on button. So there's a little switch, and then you turn them on, and they make a little noise, and then they're on. So yeah, the main workshop is this. If you are thinking, have never done robotics, that's cool, because like we teach this to grade 5s, so you can probably imagine it's not really that advanced. You are going to be perfectly fine. No experience is needed, and it's mainly block coding and Python coding, depending on the level of like workshops that we do. So obviously when we go to a school and it's like a grade 5, 6, 7 kind of workshop, we will definitely tend to do block coding. But if we start to go to like high schools, well, grade 7 is high school, but when we start to reach those older grades, if schools are interested in having workshops for them, then we can very, very easily convert the exact same workshops, but you program all the robots in Python instead of programming them in block coding. And it's a really great way that you can upscale or scale up or scale down the difficulty of these workshops, depending on age group. So that's the main thing. So there's some code examples. I might actually just jump into the IDE and show you around a little bit Tinkercad style. So Micromelon IDE, there we go. I use it a lot. So excuse me. All right, we'll just try offline. That's the main way that we do this That's the way that we do it with the girls, because they won't have like a Micromelon account. So you can very easily try these offline, and then you have no license with it or anything. And this is sort of what it looks like. The first thing I like to do is I drag this to the side when I'm doing block coding. Do I work here? Yes. Have I told the programming guy that they should fix that? Also, yes. But at the end of the day, if you have ever done any kind of scratch programming when you were in high school, or you've ever looked at any Robocop stuff, it's very much like that. It's got a lot of different categories, and a lot of them are probably fairly familiar to you, hopefully. But it's very tactile, and it's very much you drag and drop stuff. So if you're wanting to move your robot, you go to the movement section, and then you tell it to move forward at a certain speed or whatever. We might say that. And all that means is now if I want to move my robot forward, we need some way for a computer to talk to our robot. So we go to the top right in the spot ID section, and my current ID is 0006. So that means I can just type a 6, but you can go to 0006 and then enter or click go. It'll make a little high-pitched noise, and then we're connected. So, and then if I click start, it will start driving for a little bit because I didn't give it a speed, didn't give it any distance. What I might do just to show it off a little bit more is I might make it go drive for 10 centimeters. And then when I click this big, good blue run code button, it'll just go. and then it drives. So there's a lot of different things and ways that you can access the sensor. Often you do that with like logic. So you might be like, if my ultrasonic sensor distance, so this block sort of is directly a substitute for the value that your ultrasonic sensor distance is seeing. So if I hold my hand 10 centimeters in front of it, it's going to say 10, and this green block will read 10. So I can definitely go something like, if my robot sees something less than 10 centimeters away, I want to like stop, and if it doesn't, then there's nothing in front of you, so you can like move forward or something. And obviously we need to put that in some kind of a loop. So let's do that. Otherwise it will just run once and not actually run. So now I've got a robot that just drives, and then the ultrasonic sensor view, as soon as I put my hand in front of it, it will stop. Right? And it will keep going because I put it in a while true loop. But yeah. So very much reactive and tactile, and you can see how quickly I could just pick this up, drag some blocks in, and make it drive. We'll definitely give the people who are here a chance to play with them, which is going to be at the end. I want to get through my presentation, end the recording, and then sort of let people have a play with them. So that's going to be good. But yeah, that's the very basic overview. I do want to point out that if you're watching this as a recording and you were not here to try out the robot for yourself, and you don't own a micromelon, honestly, they're great. But if you do not own a micromelon, there is a micromelon simulator. So I might show that off as well. Please go away. Okay. So if I go to the micromelon side, micromelon, I can spell, I swear. Robotics. Cool. So you've got a great download section, and then this is where you find the code editor, which is what I was just using to drive my robot, and it's where you find the code simulator. And you've also got micromelon Py. So there's actually a Python library if you think that's cool, and you don't want to use any of the software that's built to use the robot. You can run it in Nathan Python if you really want it. But yeah, so you get it from the Microsoft store. There's a button is right there. You can go into the simulator. I'll have it installed. So I'm just going to go simulator, and I'll show you a little bit. So I have a micromelon account, if it will let me log in. I do. So I have access to everything. You will not have access to everything. It's a free app with a paywall, quite literally, but everyone will have access to the free space, okay? And so the way that you use this is on the top right, it will tell you 9,000 for a bot ID. So if I go to my micromelon ID, because you are on the same computer, done some background magic, where if you just type 9,000 into your bot ID, it will realize, oh, that's the simulator. Is there a simulator? Connects to the simulator if you've got it open. So 9,000, press enter. Oh, it's immediately recognizes it. And there we go. So now this is now linked. So I can press this blue button and it will drive and it will run the exact same program as I was just running. So it will stop in front of the wall. So you can try these programs out for yourself. You can have a play with these at home. This is free to download and free to use and have a try with. So, because obviously normally you would be limited by the hardware, but because of this beautiful software, we are not. And you can try as many whack programs as you want in your own time, if that's something you're interested in. So, I wanted to give a proper shout out to that. Yep, I know, I closed it. Go away. Yeah, cool. So back to this. Cool. So it's a complete code examples. Oh, the micromelon IDE has a lot of cool little. Actually, I do actually want to show that because it's really, really good. Please leave. In here, you got examples. So you've got an example of a Hello World program. You've got an example of how to drive motors, a for loop, accelerometer, color sensor. If you're not super confident in like coding, what you do is you click on these and there's massively commented code explaining exactly what it does and the blocks that they've used to do that job. So color sensor, it just goes and it explains to you again, it has 3 color sensors. You can see whether or not you can see a color. This example will drive forward until the middle color sees red. They're really great explanations and a really great resource if you're stuck a little bit, or if you're at a workshop and you're like, oh, I can't quite remember how like to use a color sensor, or I can't quite remember how to use like, surely doesn't, yeah, ultrasonic distance sensor. You can go here and it will tell you exactly how it functions. It's on the front of the robot. It reads distance in centimeters, blah, 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 blah. It's a great way to sort of verify it for yourself. And yeah, if you get stuck, just remember examples here. There's also, if your robot is doing something really strange and it's not turning on properly, there's a robot rescue tool. But the workshop leader should know about that one and be able to help out with anything super strange. But yeah, there's some very cool stuff there. So sorry, almost forgot, but I definitely wanted to talk about that. Cool. So the very fun part is tips and tricks, because there's a lot of sort of stuff that I know with experience, but it's hard to know. Basically, if something feels like you're not confident with dealing with it, or you're not sure what to do, obviously you go to your workshop leader. That is the first thing you do, because they are the person that is sort of expected to know the most in the room. So that's probably the first person to approach. Sometimes the MicroMelon IDE is not perfect. It does have its own little problems. It is a piece of software, and software likes to do weird things. So it very often will freeze, disconnect, refuse to connect to Bluetooth, all the fun stuff. Unfortunately, like honestly, 95% of the time, the way that we fix this at Literal MicroMelon is we restart the IDE, and it almost always will fix the strange behavior. If restarting it does not change the very strange behavior, and you're very confident it's not a code problem, it might be the MicroMelon hardware, or it might be, so if you want to test whether it's the hardware or not, you can run that program in the simulator, see if it still acts weird. If it does, then it's probably your code. But for any other strange glitches, restarting it will actually fix it most of the time. If a student is finished early, give them a task that's more advanced. You can lean on your workshop leader to do that, but it's very cool. Like, let's say we've just taught them how to stop in front of a wall, and we've just taught them some basic movements. Maybe a student is finished early, and you might ask them to drive around something. So they have to like combine the sensor and combine their basic movement controls to achieve that task. It's a really surefire way, because you can go, okay, what are the things we have done? What's a more advanced thing I could do? Oh, maybe I could combine these two things that we've covered and then make it a slightly more difficult or a different challenge for them, just because we want to keep them engaged. Our goal is to provide a fun experience and an engaging experience. And if a student is quite switched on and quite smart and are moving ahead of the class, we don't want them to sit there being bored. Again, if you're not sure what to do, you go back to your workshop leader. But if you can think of something, absolutely feel free to give them some random, fun, extra difficult task, which combines concepts covered. Because you obviously do want to combine concepts that they're covered, otherwise you're expecting them to do something that they might not know anything about, and then they might get stuck. So it's my go-to. When I go to like give a student an extension, I try to combine concepts I've covered already, because that way they're very much like consolidate those concepts, and they very much consolidate the things they've done, things they've learned. So that's sort of my go-to. So where to go from here? Again, I've sort of already covered a lot of my events, but there's a few more here. So we have open meetings, and we have rural trips, and we have social nights. So we do try to plan social nights. We had a bowling one not too long ago for volunteers to come along to, and they're fun. Get to meet the team, hang out. I believe we also, we have chill sessions. We have industry coffee. we do have a bunch of industry contacts and are always keen to get in touch with our members. So they very much are down to have coffee with you, and there's some really great internship opportunities that some companies are offering actually right now. We've got a mentorship program happening. So if you're sort of at that stage of your degree and you're interested in doing a membership program with one of our industry partners, I have very much unfortunately forgotten which one, but it will be advertised on our social media. So please go and check that out, because we have spots open still for that. But yeah, and our rural trips. So rural trips is where we go, we organize for a few people to go to more rural places, because unfortunately for our mission as Robogals, we are situated in the middle of the city. We are like in the richest area in Queensland, pretty much, right? Like there's not that many disadvantaged, at least compared to other places, disadvantaged students or girls here, because modern views are hopefully around the city pretty good. However, in rural towns, there might be a lot less resources, there might be a lot less opportunities for people. So we try our best to plan rural trips, and we try our best to reach some schools that might be a lot more further removed from the city, that might have less funding, less resources. And we want these people to also have this experience. We don't just want to help girls that live in the middle of Brisbane. We also want to help girls that are in rural towns, because they probably have it the hardest. You know, I think that covers most of our events that we do. But yeah, we like to have chill sessions. I believe we also have study sessions, and it's like the only thing we do in the later parts of the semester, because it's assignment and exam time and no one wants to do anything because everyone is struggling to finish those. So, you know, we're not unreasonable in that regard. We definitely are wary of that for ourselves as well. As an executive team, we also have assignments and exams. So, you know, so cool. Thank you very much for watching or coming or attending. Right now, I want to jump into using some of the micromelons or coming around answering questions, things like that. But this is where I'm going to end my recorded session. Use the resources you've got. If you want to have a play with the micromelons right after this, that's really, really great, because that's the way that you're going to feel the most prepared, is trying some of those things out. Use the resources that Micromelon has provided for the example section. And if you want to have a go and you're interested in running some of the 3D printing ones, absolutely go into Tinkercad. That's all online anyway. You can do that at any time. And you can have a free account with that if you are a student, which I'm pretty sure most of you watching will be. Cool. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you around and meet you soon. So